Joining me now is Mark Wingate. Mark Wingate is a member of the Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections in Georgia. Mark Wingate voted not to certify the vote in Fulton County. He was the one that voted no. Mark Wingate, when we were talking yesterday, you said there were 5 reasons, 5 things that you observed which made you vote not to certify Fulton County. I was hoping you would share with our audience, Mark, what those are.
Good morning, John. How are you?
Thank you. Fine, Mark. Thank you for being with us.
It's one of the things I will tell you as a board member that you certainly don't want to have to be in a position to do. We try to choose and move, the voting process along as smoothly as possible. But let me say this, that in terms of the November 3rd election, one of the things that Fulton County had done after the June 9th primary here, John, was we purchased a platform, and one of the components of that platform provided for electronic signature verification. There was a component to that. During our October 8th board meeting of this year, I had asked the question, where were we with regards to the implementation of that software? And I was told that, as the board was told, that a technician from the company in which we purchased it from was on site, and the specific reason for that was to enable the electronic signature verification component. Obviously, I would assume the other board members went forward from there thinking that was, certainly going to be a functional part of our November 3rd election result. Mm-hmm. It was November the 4th, the day after the election, that I contacted our director of elections and asked the question, how many of our absentee by mail ballots were we able to electronically signature verify? Mm-hmm. And through some discussion, as it turned out, they were not able to enable the electronic signature verification function. So therefore as was stated, that all of our over 147,000 absentee by mail ballots were manually verified. That's a problem in the fact that
they say it was manually verified, right? I mean, what does manually verified?
That's a point of contention.
Right.
Well, manually verified means that a person that was either employee of the elections department or the county of Fulton, or in many cases for us, because of the virus, was a third-party staffing company that was utilized. John, I don't know what the mix of that was and exactly on which day, which station where the signature verification was taking place, who exactly that was. But keep in mind on this that it was a single individual. This is not like an adjudication process or any kind of a review panel where there are 2 people, maybe 3 people, looking at every absentee ballot outer envelope and the signature. So the assumption is that all of these were accurately looked at and decisioned based on what was seen on the outer envelope, the absentee ballot, to that signature on file, either through the SOS, which is typically, the DDS signature, or potentially could be from the absentee ballot application. But to me, is that a logical, objective way in which you're verifying, a voter's signature? To me,
No.
It's not.
No.
It's just not. It's not safe. Mm-hmm. In terms of protecting legal, correct voting, John. That's my position.
Well, because
that was a big thing for me, and there was several others, obviously.
All right. Well, I'm gonna get to the others, but I want to just stay with this for a second. Mark Wingate
Sure.
with us, member of the Fulton County Election Board Review Board. He voted not to certify the results in Fulton County. He's got 5 reasons for that. The signature is the big one. And the thing about running them through the machine is you run them through the SIG verification machine. Senator Beach was talking about that yesterday live on my show. And he said they spit out ones that don't verify. And then 2 people have to get together, a Republican and a Democrat by law, and decide whether or not the machine is accurate. But he said, when that typically happens, like in 2018, 5 points, almost 6% of the ballots got spitted out. In 2018, in 2020, there was no machine verification, and so virtually 0.02%, or virtually none of them got rejected, right? So his point was, so my question is, if you don't have a special session and you don't get rid of the consent law and you don't do what you're supposed to do, why aren't the Democrats going to do the same thing in January? Or what is going to be different?
Well, in terms of the process of the verification, John, unless, and I have not been told this, though I've asked, the same verification process that was in place for the November 3rd election will be in place, for the January 5th runoff election. Now, let me state this in terms of the absentee by mail signature outer envelope piece. If there is not a signature, that's put to the side. If, for whatever reason, a staff person who is responsible to do the signature verification says this does not look right, that's put aside. But what the law now in Georgia, John, allows is what is called a curing process. So any of those that did not have a signature or a mismatched signature is to then go back to the voter at the voter's address on record, and then there is an affidavit and a process in there for that voter to get their vote back so that potentially it would be then legally counted. Mm-hmm. So there is a curing process. I think that's important to know. Mm-hmm. I have no earthly idea, and I never was able to get a steadfast number. How many of those did we return to the voter to cure, and then how many did we get returned and were cured? I don't have a number to that, which is frustrating.
Wow.
I don't
Mark
know
Wingate.
and I don't know, and when people are making these decisions, and I'm one of 5 people on this board, John, please keep that in mind.
Right.
That, I don't, by one vote, I certainly don't create the majority it was needed, to stop or do anything. But that's why I clearly, being as a fact-based guy, I didn't feel comfortable in certifying this election, because what you don't know is something, to me, that you certainly don't want to then, as to the oath that we're under, as to go forward in terms of validating an election.
And again, Mark Wingate, member, Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections, voted not to certify Fulton County. Mark Wingate, again, I'm going to ask the same thing again. So what is going to be different come the runoff? What is going to change? You're going to vote again no. They're going to get certified again. The signatures are going to go through. They're not going to go through the machine again. They're going to do it by hand again. There's going to be virtually none of them spit out again, and they're going to steal it again. So that's the frustration. It's like what you're saying is so. It will be one thing if it was passed, and now you're going to into a General Assembly session to fix this. You got another election coming up in a month, and I'm sitting here saying to myself, all right, Wingate, I mean, he voted no. Here's his 5 reasons. None of these reasons are going to be addressed by January 5th if there's not a special session. Does that make sense, Mark?
Well, John, it does. And again, I'm glad you brought that up, because, the Fulton County Board of Registration Elections, as well as the Department of Registration Elections for Fulton County, we don't, we're not legislators. We have to follow that is law. Now, one of the things that I will tell you is that I have asked for even though not provided by law, John, as I understand it. But there's others that have also asked for, in terms of going forward for this runoff, that the absentee by mail ballots be, as they come in and are going through the verification and the ultimate process to scan them in, if you will, that we have asked to have that process be oversighted or overviewed or paneled so that it's not just one individual that is making that ultimate decision. Because once it's done and it goes through, please understand at that point in time, it's not retrievable. You don't get a redo. So my view of it was, as well as others that have made the similar request, is to have a panel. And it would certainly be nonpartisan. I mean, we're not trying to make this Democrat, Republican, clearly. It's just like a voter review panel. I understand that becomes cumbersome because then all of these that you're getting in, it's going to take a longer period of time to honestly do this signature verification since it's being done manually against one of the databases for the signature, correct? If you're following what I'm saying.
I'm following exactly what you're saying, Mark.
To date, John, as I sit here in my chair,
yes,
through those requests, there has not been any affirmation or denial to having that in place. And I will continue as we go forward, requesting that we do bring in some semblance, of oversight to that process. Otherwise, and I'm just one guy. But to me, across the board and everything that all of us, no matter who we are hearing or should, or I believe can be hearing, is that the outcry of that. And as a voter and a citizen myself that can legally vote in this country and in this county, I would feel the same way. And I've commented to my counterparts that, look, if there is one vote, that was cast illegally, I take that personally because that was my vote that was cast legally and basically taken out of play. And I find that unfair.
Unbelievable. Mark Wingate, I really want to thank you. First of all, I thank you for your courage for not only voting no, because you didn't have enough information. I mean, you just didn't have enough facts to validate these votes. And second of all, for coming on my show. This is not easy to do on a national platform, Mark, and I appreciate your courage for doing that, sir. Thank you.
Well, John, I appreciate you saying that I have courage. It's not necessarily to me a courage. It's just that if we're all going to be truthful, honest about what we're doing here, then let's just make sure that in terms of our processes and our controls and our chain of custody on all of this, that, it's accurate. It's stable.
No, you're right.
It's something that you can walk away from,
right.
I can walk away from, and every other legal voting citizen in this country can walk away from, feeling confident that their vote, was cast correctly and counted correctly.
Mark, you nailed it. I want to thank Mark Wingate for being with us. Mark Wingate, member, Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections.